If you've been watching my channel lately, you know I've been doing a lot of camping inside my Tesla, especially at RV sites where I can plug in and sleep with the HVAC on all night while waking up to a full charge. Well, it dawned on me that as long as I am parking at a place that has electricity, I can switch out my cooler for a portable refrigerator. That way I don't have to worry about ice getting all my stuff wet on the inside, and I don't have to worry about getting ice to replace the ice that melts. This particular fridge was in my sights precisely because its external dimensions allow it to fit in the sub-trunk of my Model 3. And like most portable fridges on the market, it can run off the 12-volt socket in the car, then plug into 120 volt once I get to my campsite. The brand on the label is called F40C4TMP, which seems to come from 40 degrees Fahrenheit being equal to 4 degrees Celsius in temperature. Despite the odd name on the outside, it's actually a design that wears other labels in the same configuration, as well as sharing the guts with fridges that have variations in external designs. In fact, I contacted one of the other labels to get a fridge to test, but the manufacturer sent this one after realizing it was a better fit, quite literally for what I wanted to do with it. And as you'll see, I think they were right. That's because it fits almost perfectly in the sub-trunk of my Model 3, even in the insulated carry cover. The sub-trunk cover rests on top and it doesn't close all the way, but that's certainly good enough for me. With it slid all the way to the left, there's still plenty of airflow around the compressor with the sub-trunk cover off. But even with it on, you're probably gonna be all right if you pre-cooled the fridge on 120 volt like I did. In fact, I ran it at -8 degrees Fahrenheit overnight to deep cool all of the parts. It's already been sitting at a set temp of 38 degrees for 2.5 hours, and it's at 31 degrees still. It's still below freezing. Some of that is certainly due to the insulated cover, which not only adds abrasion and some impact protection, but it makes the fridge more efficient when on and helps it stay cold longer when you don't have it plugged in. As you can see, the cover is intended to stay on while you're using the fridge, while venting for airflow to the compressor and easy access to all of the controls. You can get the bag separately, but I was able to find a combo deal that's only $30 more than the fridge alone. You'll find a link to the fridge, the carry cover, and the combo in the video description. I plan to keep the cover on all the time for my personal use, though it'll be off in a lot of this video because I want to show you the fridge and not the bag. The included 12-volt power cable is 11 feet long, which is plenty enough to run between the split and the rear seats all the way to the socket in the center console. I do wish that the Model 3 had a 12-volt socket in the rear like a lot of vehicles, but that would simply be for convenience. It's not really an issue running the cable all the way up to the socket in the console. I already have it packed with the stuff I want to keep cool. You have to choose one temp for the whole compartment, but I'm going to try a trick to keep my frozen custard frozen. I have it down in this corner here, and I have 2 frozen water bottles, one here and one across the top, to see if that's going to keep it frozen long enough for it to still be a frosty treat after my dinner tonight. I've got corn, I've got sandwiches for tomorrow, bacon, eggs, and even a quart of milk in there. And I still have plenty of room. 20 quarts is a lot of room. And even though I'm taking more food than I'm gonna eat on this trip, I still have room to take food for my entire family for a couple of days, no problem. The campsite I'm heading to is only a 30-minute drive from here, but I'm gonna keep this sealed up and the car on camp mode, including under the cargo mat, to simulate a longer drive. I'm gonna finish packing a little bit closer to when I leave, but it'll be sitting under here for the next 5 hours or so, and then we'll see how hot it actually gets inside the sub-trunk without the subtrunk lid being opened and allowing full ventilation. I don't think it's going to be an issue though, not with it being pre-cooled, but we'll see soon enough. Part of pre-cooling the fridge on 120 volt of AC power was to see how long it takes to get to freezing, then to its minimum temperature of -8 degrees Fahrenheit. I placed a probe as close to the very center of the interior box as I could so we could compare that to the built-in thermometer as it cools. Within 13 minutes, the air in the middle of the fridge had reached 32 degrees, though the fridge is still reading 44 degrees. It still only took 18.5 minutes for the fridge to read 32 degrees Fahrenheit, which is still very impressive. It ultimately took about 46 minutes for the fridge to read -9 degrees, the coldest temp I've seen it display. That's still just one area of the fridge though, so I'm gonna leave it at this setting overnight and really deep cool all of its parts before packing it up. My new favorite place to car camp is Poplar Point at Jordan Lake near Raleigh, North Carolina. It was built by the Army Corps of Engineers, and as many RVers will tell you, they built many of the most beautiful RV campgrounds anywhere you find them in the US. Just look at my view. I even have a sandy beach attached to the bottom of my site where I could keep a boat like my next door neighbor is doing, but even without a boat, these waterfront sites are a nice place to do my work using my phone as a hotspot. I stay at RV sites with electric hookups so I can sleep inside my Model 3 with the HVAC set to my preference while still waking to a full charge in the morning. I sleep on a memory foam mattress from a company called Testmat. I did a whole video on it, which you can find in a card at the top right of this video or linked in the video description. Back to the fridge, it had zero issues sitting under all of my gear in my Model 3's subtrunk. The air under the cover wasn't even noticeably warm, so I'm confident that as long as the fridge is already at the temp you set it, it'll be fine under there all day. Though the fridge has two molded in handles, the insulated case means I can easily carry it with one hand. Its pockets are designed to hold all of the included DC and AC power cables, so you're much less likely to accidentally leave them behind, and that is a huge plus for me. Though I'm camping at an RV spot so I can charge my Tesla while I'm parked, power hookups are becoming more and more popular at tent-only sites across the US. That's where I think a portable fridge wins over a cooler. I just run an extension cord to my picnic table and plug right in as soon as I unpack. I don't have to worry about how often I open the lid to get something out of it because the compressor will kick right in and cool the air again. With a cooler, I have to be more crafty about how I open it, even how I pack it, so that I can get stuff in and out of it quickly and not make the ice work too hard. With only 1 kilowatt hour of consumption a day, I could run that off of my massive battery in my Tesla for 2.5 months. It's equivalent to about 4 miles of range per day. Should you be camping somewhere for a while where you can't charge, it's totally a non-issue with a Tesla. This insulating cover really works well. Look at that temperature. I still have the set temperature at 38 degrees and it hasn't hit it yet. I haven't heard the compressor turn on, and it's been about 8 hours since I first unplugged this from 120 volt where it had achieved -8 degrees overnight. I pre-cooled the whole thing, but I did put some frozen water bottles in here, and it'll be interesting to see what else is ice in a bit here, but I don't need to get anything out just yet. I am very impressed with the cold retention of this just as it is without actually using power. Speaking of power, I am using the USB port to power my Luminoodle rope lights. These are LEDs, and of course they're on right now because they're plugged in. They're not doing any good, but they will later on tonight. They're going to give me nice light as I'm sitting here in the dark. Speaking of dark, the sun set before the next few clips of video, so I apologize for the grainy footage. I didn't want to be running super bright video lights because that would not have been very neighborly of me. Okay, I don't know what the lighting is going to be like for this video, but this is still at 35 degrees. I don't know if the compressor is run at all. It doesn't feel warm on the compressor side at all, that's for sure. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to take everything out of this and put it in this cooler just so you get an idea of the capacity comparison between the two. And I'm also going to check the stuff to see if I froze anything that wasn't frozen before I put it in here. Okay, so Starting to thaw out. Yeah, this is a little mushy. Bacon is not frozen, but it's cold. This is solid ice. 2 ears of corn, not frozen, but cold. Sandwiches, cold, not frozen. Hershey bar might be frozen up there, but it's fine otherwise. Eggs, not frozen. Hot dogs, not frozen. Milk, not frozen. Okay, so yeah, you can see there's more room in here, but you have to keep in mind that at least half of this is going to have to be ice in order to keep this stuff cold for more than a day or so. Then you're going to have that ice melting, so you have to make sure that it's not soaking all of this. And then I'm going to have no control whatsoever on the temperature. Whereas with the refrigerator, I can set it colder if I want, I could set it warmer if I want. You have a lot more control over what the temperature of your food's going to be. And you're going to have that control not only when you have it plugged in, but clearly it works pretty well as a cooler on its own. If you pre-cool everything on 120 volts before you pack up and leave. Oh yeah, I forgot, because this lid is so thick, I can't even have this up there. It's more like that in order to get this to close. Now, this is a lot tougher than that refrigerator could ever hope to be. So it's not that there isn't any use for a cooler. And you might want to have ice for other reasons, or keep things frozen in a cooler while things are not frozen in the refrigerator, or actually vice versa. Run the refrigerator down as a freezer and keep this right around the 30s to keep your food fresh, but not a block of ice. So I'm not gonna get rid of this cooler by any stretch. It's still gonna have a lot of value to me. All right, I'm a genius and I'm not gonna open these up. But what I did to get my ice cream hard again is I set this to -8. And it only has ice cream in there. I'm using the 2 frozen water bottles as a source of cool for everything else in here, at least temporarily. And really, it's only the milk that needs to stay cold. But I bet you in about an hour, which is when I expect to want to eat this ice cream, this is going to be nice and firm again. And then I'll be able to crank this back to 38 degrees, transfer things over, and I'll be golden. See, it's still a good idea to have a cooler. So I'm using the microphone straight from the camera because I want all of the other ambient noises to be heard. All the crickets, the propane burner on my neighbor's RV, all those things are louder standing right here than the compressor. I'm gonna get really close and then you're gonna be able to hear it. You have to be really close and then you hear it hum, but that is really quiet. Okay, a moment of truth. I have a headlamp on so I can get a little more direct light. There's definitely ice on the outside of it. There you go. Mmm. It's breakfast. Time for some bacon and eggs. And the eggs are cold, but the carton isn't soggy. Of course, it's not breakfast without coffee, and for that I use a Stanley French press. I just boil the water on my gas 1 stove, add the grounds directly to the water, and wait about 6 minutes or so, which is just enough time to get started on my eggs and bacon. Good old Boy Scout mess kit I've had for 35 plus years. And the secret is to use some of the fat from your bacon to grease your pan. that smells awesome. Well, that's still cooking. My coffee is ready. I love this little French press. I use this at home every day, actually. I bought this for camping, and I loved it so much. This is how I make coffee at home. Oh, that smells delicious. Nice cold milk to cool it down so I can actually drink it this morning. Mmm, delish. Look at that. Can't wait to dig in. Oh, this smells delicious. And really, it can be a pain in the butt bringing eggs with you when you have a cooler because the carton just sogs right out. You can buy plastic bins. Little plastic egg carriers. But I don't even need to worry about that with the refrigerator. Delicious. And then you use your bacon to get the leftover yolk. Super crispy. My daughter and I are both fans of what we call almost burnt bacon. We don't want it actually burnt, just almost burnt. Delicious. Now I'm going to get the stuff I didn't use back in the fridge. It's actually nice and cool out here for a change. Raleigh, North Carolina area, which is where this campground is, it gets super hot and humid in the summer, and this was a typical hot and humid summer for us. But it is finally cooling down, and it actually feels like fall today. So I've got ice cold water. I just left it at the campsite because I am not going to need it today. But this is beautiful. This is just one of the things that gets me to this campground. It's by a nice big lake, and one of these days I'm going to come out here and spend a couple nights here and have a company deliver a canoe for me. It's pretty cool. It's something like $50 a day, and they'll actually drop it off at your campsite and pick it up when you're done. That's a deal. I had my iPad charging while I was on my hike, and this was at 1% when I left, and it's at 86% an hour later. So I don't know what the output of this port is. Hope I can find it before I finish the video. But now it is time for me to get my ice cold water and a sandwich. I made 2 sandwiches, but I'm just not hungry enough for both of them. Oh, that's gonna be nice. Ow! My sandwich. After eating my lunch on my beach, I packed up to head home. I could have put the fridge in the sub trunk again, but I wanted to see how well it fit in a seat where I could reach it while driving. I only have a half-hour drive, and I already know that this unplugged is going to keep everything cool for that long, but I just wanted to show it in use on a seat. I have a blanket underneath it to protect the seat itself, but because it can operate it up to a 30-degree tilt, it actually isn't going to have any issues sitting here or in the back seat. And from this position, when I'm driving by myself, I actually can lift the lid and access drinks the whole trip. One of the things I like about these pockets is that I can keep the AC adapter and power supply here. I actually have one of these battery adapters, so all I need to do is connect these alligator clips to any large 12-volt battery, and then I've got a little socket there in case I'm in a situation where I want to run it off of that. And of course I have the DC running to the 12-volt right now. It's all plugged in. But this is actually really handy with this case, and it still fits in the sub trunk with the stuff in there. The whole time that I was showing this in the sub trunk, these pockets had these contents in it. Actually, I just got rid of my trash, but I'm gonna grab a water bottle before I get on the road. That's my old one. Where's Here we go. That's the fresh one. Still has a chunk of ice in it. That's awesome. Of course, you don't need a Tesla for this refrigerator to be a really good solution for you. I've been able to run this for about 6 hours straight at maximum cooling, like you see it right here, without the case on and completely empty, which is harder than actually trying to keep stuff cool that's already cool inside of there. And it ran for 6 hours before the built-in low voltage protection kicked in. You can choose between high, low, and medium settings, but I recommend you keep it on the high setting if you're going to run this off of a battery that you plan to use to start an engine the next day. Based on what other reviewers have experienced, you shouldn't have any problems running this off of a standard car or especially truck battery overnight, even longer, without that low voltage protection kicking in. So you shouldn't have any real problems car camping with something like this without having access to external power. You are going to want to start your engine in the morning when you wake up just to make sure and top off that battery. But the nice thing is this will shut off before it kills your battery and leaves you stranded in the middle of nowhere. I want to show you this setup. I think I showed this adapter earlier in the video. You just clip it onto any 12-volt battery and it'll give you a 12-volt socket like for a cigarette lighter. And then I'm just running the standard 12-volt power cable that came with a refrigerator. There is quite a bit of voltage loss in this setup. If I were going to be doing this on a regular basis, I'd invest in another one of these power cables. I'd cut it and then I would solder in alligator clips directly to this cable, and that way I'd avoid quite a bit of voltage loss across here. And what that means is that I'd be able to run this more efficiently and I'd be able to run it longer for the same amount of charge that I'm drawing off of the battery. But since I'm only going to do that occasionally, it was cheaper to buy one of these adapters than to buy another one of these cables and then solder in the alligator clips. Plus, I could use this for other accessories that work the same way. I think this cooler from Tasmanian is a perfect comparison to this fridge. And it's not just because their external dimensions are really close, but they both retail for exactly the same price, $239, which is actually well below what you'd have to spend to get an equivalent size in, say, a Yeti cooler. I would never give up this cooler because it works so well as a cooler for when I need extra capacity and I don't need so much ice to keep things cool over a short period of travel. When I need something with a lot more durability than a plastic refrigerator is going to have. When I need to be able to carry my stuff around without worrying about getting mud into vents or dust or dirt. There's still going to be plenty of reasons why a cooler is going to be the best choice for what you need. But when you have access to power, even if it's just the 12-volt outlet in your car, when you want control over the temperature of your food, when you want to keep your food dry, when you don't want to worry about having to get more ice as you travel, then this refrigerator is a clear winner. And for another $30 or so, you can get it in a combo with this cover, which I think adds a whole lot more than another $30 worth of value. It not only makes this run more efficiently, but it can actually get condensation around it, and this will protect your vehicle from the condensation that's generated by this refrigerator. It protects it from impact, and it makes it a whole lot easier to carry around. This is the perfect size for Tesla Model 3 owners because of how well it fits in the subtrunk, though it's also a very manageable size regardless of what kind of vehicle you drive, because it'll allow you to carry a whole lot of food while still giving you room to pack other stuff around it. If you want to learn more about this 20-quart cooler from F40C4TMP, be sure to visit the links in the video description. I also did a video showing you how to access the fuse and all of the connections. It's super easy to do, but the 4 minutes it requires for me to show you how to do it just made more sense as a standalone video. Be sure to subscribe so you see more videos on car camping and road tripping. I really appreciate you watching The Tech of Tech, and I hope to see you next time.